what did the investment banker in you, because I know you have a background in investment banking, so what did the investment banker in you think about diving into a very competitive landscape? And probably you chose, I mean, I don't know how complicated the ballet flat is to make, but footwear is usually the most complicated product to develop early on.
Yeah, I guess that, as you said, ballet, I think that was a maybe not done by purpose, but I guess ballet flats is one of the easiest footwear to actually create, both from not coming from the industry and also from a factory in terms of like
zero background in production.
Yeah, exactly, and us describing what type of design we want and so on. So coming back to that, so I think it has been a learning process. But then of course the factories in what we work with are very skilled.
Yeah,
and I think we have like had the luxury or the to develop. Yeah, we've been around for 10 years, and I think we have developed slowly as business and footwear industrial people as well. So and then of course after a few years we hired our first real designer, so to say, and then it was like easier to scale up and also like one production manager and so on. But I think in the early beginning it was done in like PowerPoints and so on.
Interesting. Yeah. That's usually how it goes. Usually, if you don't have any experience, if you find the right manufacturing partner, they become sort of like your teacher into the entire process, and then everything else is just learned through mistakes, which happen to be very expensive. And what about your wife? What is her background?
No, she's working with like in media and social media today. So that's also completely different.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah, nothing with apparel or footwear or something. So yeah, it was interesting. It was a steep learning phase, and I think we are lucky that we survived the first years.
Yeah. Wow. How long did it take you to launch your first prototype? Do you remember? Like the first prototype that you were happy with?
Yeah, and actually quite fun story, because we first approached like 3 different factories.
Yeah.
Then we got one sample, like we got samples from all 3 of them, but it was one factory that understood our like design philosophy better than the rest. So we went with this flat, only one color, to the department store in Sweden, the biggest one in Stockholm. And then we're actually really like, oh, you have found this like only in the market. This is perfect for the holidays. So they actually placed an order of 1,600 pairs, like the first order from. Wow. And then we haven't really decided which factory to go with yet. So that was like a real kickstart. That's
nerve-wracking, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like everything went so fast. It was like two weeks before, and the factory were about to ship. It was like shoe boxes. How should they look? It was like, oh, shoe boxes.
Yeah, we needed shoe boxes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
it was yeah.
That's so typical. That's so typical of starting it with no experience. Yeah, that's so funny. Interesting. I'm guessing where we're most coming from? Portugal, if it was based in Europe.
Yeah, we started in Portugal. Actually, then moved to Spain for footwear. Now we have actually diversified. So we have both Portugal and Spain quite equally, and then the bags and the accessories are made in Italy.
Interesting. And I'm guessing early stage funding was all you were saving money from your job and reinvesting it into the company, or was there because it was, I don't know how the investment scene was back then, but I'm guessing it was most of businesses were just completely bootstrapped.
Yeah, we were bootstrapped. I think actually the first order was more or less the first funding that we had, that we were very lucky to get that order and also to get those volumes for the factories. So no, we were bootstrapped until 2018.
Yeah. Was cash flow ever a big problem starting off, or the prototype and the idea hit a nerve very quickly and everything just grew very quickly?
No, I think cash flow is always a problem.
Yeah.
When you work with stock and inventory and fashion, so that has been better. But then of course, especially I think financial institutes like conventional banks and so on has been more in favor of the wholesale concept than e-commerce, because you have this
predictability.
Orders. Yeah, exactly. That you can actually use these orders like 4 or 6 months in advance to lend money, and then also you could use the invoice that you send to do factoring and so on. So there is a bit of more possibilities now. In I guess in the like previous years now, they had come a lot of like different possibilities. I think always Europe is a bit after US, but for e-commerce as well, that where you could like forecast and so on, you could actually lend money on your future sales as well. But in history, it's easier to work with wholesale and financing from banks.
Interesting. And when you look at the early stage, and I'm going to call it success because it is kind of like the first milestone of success when you start something, is it actually selling at a rate where my production can't catch up. For you, getting from the idea to getting to that stage, Was it all, what was, because I'm guessing there was no strategy, but back then, what were you guys doing? Were we just advertising the product? Did you just push it on social media and it got organic momentum? What got the business rolling from a sales and marketing perspective?
Yeah, for us, I think like back then, influencers was quite powerful. That
Yeah.
was like the easiest way for us as well to just like seed products and then hope for getting like them to use it and like it, of course.
Yeah.
So I think that that was how we started. Then I think quite early we started also with advertisement on Meta, Facebook back then, and then Instagram when that was launched. So I
Interesting.
guess that's how it started.
Interesting. It's really, it's funny to see how the dynamic has completely changed, right? In the last, what's been 10 years in terms of marketing and sales, how I'm guessing the principles are similar because influencer marketing still works, quote unquote. Facebook advertising still quote unquote works, but the degree to which it works and the barrier of actually making it work to versus what it used to be is probably completely different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially also influencer marketing, but I think especially Meta, that was like back then it was so cheap to do it. So it was so easy. You didn't like, you could
you
really
were printing
like
money. You were printing orders pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And you could start with like almost like like a few dollars per day and just see like, okay, then I add one order. Okay, then I can increase it to $4 tomorrow. And then you could just grow from there.
Yeah.
And also you could actually do quite shitty ads. So say like
yeah. Now I remember you could literally post like a hot girl on a bikini and Facebook allowed it, and you know it was everything. It was more like the Wild West, but people that got into it early made a lot of profit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we would have like investors back then, it would be more serious. Like then I think we were still in like trial and error process, but if you would be like more like, how to say,
knowledgeable and experienced,
yeah, exactly, then we could like grow much faster back then.
Double down on that. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if we've learned anything about D2C brands in the last 10 years is that fast growth is not really the way to go.
No, exactly. It's not equal to success, definitely. Yeah, I think it's very tricky also to see this very big like Warby Parker, Evelyn, how this still struggling with profitability and so on.
It's fascinating because and what's your perspective on that as a business owner, by the way? Because on one end you have the reassurance of your success so far, but on the other end you see bigger players that are not succeeding, and that must affect your ability to, I don't know, feel confident about everything that's going on. So how do you view that problem, or how do you view that? Because I'm guessing you think about things like that quite often.
Yeah, definitely, and I think also it also comes. I think like this story like cut the middleman, be like very like customer focused in terms of pricing. It's quite difficult. I think you can't really like on paper it looks quite fine to have all this like gross margin of 60% and so on, but when it also like adds up, you want to like grow, you want to have international growth, you want to like add on partners, you need other like services just to cope with it. It's difficult to get the calculation to the numbers to work. So I guess that's why we're also trying to, I think was good for us was that we launched our site at more or less the same time that we also sold to wholesalers. So we were never like pure player D2C. And working with wholesaler, that required some certain like level of margin.
Yeah, more infrastructure from a production perspective for everything.
Yeah, and also like to be able to offer the wholesale the margin they were asking for. We were required also to, of course, make money there. So we never pushed our prices down to like the real, so to say, D2C levels of like 60%, gross level 65. So we have always had margins higher than that, which I think is also really much needed. That's what also you see in like Evelyn and so on. They're trying to push up from the like where they were from the beginning. I think 60% in gross margin up to about 70, because that is needed to make profit, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I mean there's and correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to profitability, there's essentially three things that you need to look for. Three things is how much does it cost? How much do I sell it for? And that's how much does it cost me to sell it? Yeah. So what are the marketing costs? And what happened early 2015, 2014 was marketing costs were almost inexistent because platforms were new. There was no competition. And it gave founders, entrepreneurs a false sense of security that the high profit margins that were responsible for low competition from a marketing perspective were going to last forever. So they built massive businesses around these foundations. And 10 years later, when everybody started using advertising, the landscape got more competitive and the cost started rising. They noticed that they didn't have business models that actually worked. and now the consumer is used to low prices.
Yeah, exactly. So it's harder as well. It's not just to increase overnight, but then also I feel like, I don't know, if you're doing a great product, it's not, or at least from my own perspective, you could actually, it's not that hard if you have great products to increase the prices slightly. Then of course it's maybe difficult to like jump up to a different price range so you become a completely different brand. But increasing the prices 20% is maybe not that hard. It's like could be easier than you could actually think. That's my experience.
Interesting. And over the last 10 years, probably the ups and downs, the different things that you've seen, what do you think has been the most important skill that you've had consistently over that period of time, or that you've had to develop?
I think coming from like the investment banking has given me a lot, like be able to talk the talk when you also talk with other investors and banks and so on, and giving them the trust.
Yeah, so that you know the language, you know how they think.
I can talk the talk exactly. And know what they think and what they're looking for. I think that helps us a lot. Then I'm as a person, I'm like equally into the creatives as the financials. I guess I also really love the business side of it, which has helped a lot. I've been involved in the design process, but I have never been like designer myself. So quite early on, we both have like one like professional designer, and that I guess also have helped a lot. Then we also come like still like 70% of our revenue comes from e-com.
60
on our own. It's like 2/3, I would say, comes from our own e-com site. And I think also like for me, it's quite satisfying with e-com. It's like you get the feedback so direct. You could really see like, no, we have like doing a great job in terms of products, campaigns, and so on. And that I guess it's also taps into the interest of numbers. And then I'm trying to be. I think also for me also coming from outside the industry, I think has been very helpful to dare to try something new, to not be like see these invisible barriers that like, or unwritten rules that you can't do that or you can't do that. I think it's important to dare to be innovative and try new things. And I guess
the benefits of ignorance.
Exactly. And I think people are actually forgetting the things that you didn't do that well faster than you think.
Interesting.
I think that's something that you need to carry. Because also, I think that all coming back to Facebook advertisement and that, I think it's like when we started off with that, it was like people are okay, so you want to be that brand doing that, and was like, no, I think everyone will do this in the future. So just to be there, and it's like money on the table because it's so easy. But I think a lot of brands that have maybe like has been around for a longer time and hasn't been like founded during these times were more like
they were founded during winter.
Exactly. And they were like, no, the Facebook ads is not for us. We're not that type of brand, and so on.
Yeah.